Welcome to Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura, and a few weeks ago I did mention that my favorite quilt block is the Melon block. The reason I like it, there's only 2 seams per block, which means we can get the quilt done quick and easy with a lot of impact. So there is a Melon block. So it really does give a lot of impact. I do have one that is still in my store, and it's black and white. Now this block is the same. The difference is I've added something on the end. So when we look at that block, I've just added a half square triangle on each side. So today I'm going to share with you a pattern that is going to fit 10-inch squares of fabric. So for each 2 blocks, you're going to need 2 10-inch fabrics. I'll put a link in the description so that you can print out these 2 pages. So you'll need to print these out on your computer at 100% and then cut them out. And we're going to use those as templates. So let's get some templates cut out, and then I'll share with you some of my tricks on sewing these together. So we will have these 2 sheets that we need to print out. These we are going to be able to cut exactly the way they are. This particular one, in order for me to get it on one sheet for you, I am missing those 4 ends. So you'll be able to just square those corners off on your own. So I have a big corner, a small corner, and my melon block. So it won't matter if we put our fabrics together right side or stack them all wrong side. The pieces are the same regardless of the way that we are going to use them. So all 3 pieces are going to fit on this 10-inch square. The outside pieces I am not going to trim because I will trim the block down after. The melon block is going to be cut out all the way, and this curve and coming down will be cut out properly. Those outside pieces we really don't have to worry about. So I will be drawing on the light side. I'm going to center in that melon. If you tape this onto some cardboard, you're going to be able to trace around it really easily. Once I have that one shape drawn out, I'm going to draw out the next. And these 2 sides are the sides I'm not worried about. So it's this side and this side I'm not worried about. So there are the 3 shapes that I need out of the blocks. I do like to make sure that I have a pin on each of those curves. Now I can just cut it out with a pair of scissors. And as I cut out my pieces, I do have my pieces that I want to go together. And then I'm going to stack them all in the pile. And when you do stack them, take just a couple of extra seconds and line up the curves so those stacks are all edges meeting. Once I have all of my pieces cut out that I want and all of my stacks are together so that the edges are nice and neat, I'm going to put the template back down. Now if you'd like, you can put a few clips to hold it, but the clips are optional. Then I'm going to take a marker and I'm going to mark that little mark in the center point. So I'm just going to hold those pieces together so that they're all lined up. And I'm going to mark all of them at the same time so that all of them are going to have a little halfway mark on them. So I'm going to do that to my melons and my 2 corners right there in the center. For this big side, I want 2 additional marks. I did mark that side. The edges match up. Take this one off and place on the small one and line up that center mark. Now what I want to do is mark where this seam allowance is going to be. So I'm going to be marking right there and right there, right on the fabric. So that long piece has 1, 2, 3 marks. So we have all of our 3 pieces cut out. The small corner, the melon, and the large. The large one does have the 3 marks. We have the center in the melon and the center on this small one. Now these blocks are going to go together. These marks are going to identify the corners when we get to this large part. But for now, let's sew together the melon and that small corner. Now there's 2 ways you can sew them together. You can sew them together with the corner on the bottom. So you're going to be stitching this around the top. Or you can start with the melon piece on the bottom and have the corner go around. And this is the way that I prefer. Both methods are fine. It's what you are comfortable with. When I'm stitching, I like to stitch on a little scrap of fabric, and that way I don't have to worry about holding those threads. This corner is going to match this corner. But for a couple of stitches, I'm going to match it up here, even though this is going to that melon shape. So I've only done a couple of stitches. Now I could take that and match up those points. I'm going to be able to move this top as I'm stitching. If you need to, you can always use tweezers. But I'm going to be working the fabric with my fingers underneath and on top. So I can push and pull this fabric. And you can see how I can just move this. And stitch until you come to your pin. Stop. Now I'm going to bring this to this corner. I could take that top piece and just move it a little towards the back. When you start to get some wrinkles here in the front, all we need to do is pull the top fabric to the back, and that's going to take care of any of the wrinkles here. And if you're off just a little smidgen here, don't worry about it. Come to the end and stitch off. Now I like to take this and press it going into this large direction. And sometimes just a finger press is all you are going to need. Now the next piece is going to go on. This little mark that we made will match up right here at that point. We have the center mark, and that mark will go right here. And don't worry about that. So we're going to stitch until we hit this mark. And stop. Bring this over and pin it. Now I can maneuver this and continue sewing. I'll use tweezers this time just so you can see the difference. Once again, when I have that wrinkle there, I'm pulling that top fabric to the back. Get to the pin, move it, and pin this point, and continue. And just smooth out that fabric. I've come to my point. Straighten up that edge and continue. Now when we open it up, we have a beautiful block and we will be able to trim this down. So both of those seams are coming out. Now this block can be a very forgiving block. As we're stitching, if we don't come to the end properly, we can adjust that without having to take that seam apart. We still want to press that seam to the larger side so it's flat to work with, and we can trim this little piece off. Just straighten it up so we pretend it wasn't there. So here's that little piece we're going to pretend did not exist. If the melon came over larger, we just need to smooth that out. This area needs to be straight, and then we get the curve. This is a large block. We are going to be able to trim them down. With a little bit of practice, you are going to be able to get this, but I would rather you have fun with it and not worry about that for this block. Now I'm going to be able to stitch. My first 2 points will probably match up, but not that bottom one, so let's not worry about it. The only point that I want to match up is that top one. So let's match that up and stitch till you come to that point. Now, if the beginning was okay, you can continue to match that. But let's stretch it all out of shape and I'll show you how well it will still work. But I'm still going to follow that edge, move the fabric. We are honestly not going to worry about it. Then stitch straight off. Now when we fold this back, it's not matching here, but it will iron. Press that out so both of those edges are going out. So this is the way the correct block should look. It's nice and flat. There's no ripples. The seams have been pressed out. Those marks did match up. This is going to get trimmed down so the edges are perfect, no differently than our poor little wonky block. You can see he's not exactly perfectly straight. Press him good, get him nice and flat. I still have the seams going out, and you can see where he's a little crooked. We will be able to square that up to a beautiful 8-inch block. I do use that diagonal line. You'll have approximately 1.5 inches at this point and this point. As long as it's approximately, that's all we need. I just want that center line to go down. The block that sort of went askew, find the point and the point. Line it up the best you can and trim. This is 8 inches and this is 8 inches. So other than that fabric not looking straight, the block is still going to work out. I have all of my blocks done and I was able to trim them down to 8 inches. Now if you need to trim them down smaller, that is fine. I'm going to make a small lap quilt out of these. So I will be using 24 blocks. I'm going to do 4 blocks in each row by 6 rows. When this is all put together, this simple little quilt is 30.5 inches by 45 inches. So what's not to love about this quilt? We start with pre-cut 10-inch squares. Each block only has 2 seams. There's no seams to match up when we put it together. We can add half square triangles to add some extra dimension. We can add a border Curved piecing can feel intimidating, but this is one of these blocks where even if it is not quite right, it is going to be fine. Give it a good press. Just make sure all of those squares trim up to the same size, and well, you won't find the mistakes unless you look really close. And I'm not going to show you that block. I do hope you give it a try. I'll put some links in the description so that you can print out those templates and give it a try on your own. Thank you for joining me today on So Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and I do have a newsletter. It's all free under So Very Easy. And be sure to make every day a so-tacular day. Bye for now.